Ah, that's a nice spinnaker. Say hello, Julie. How's it going there, viewers? Welcome to another episode of Sailing Head Injuries, and this will be a boat talk from the backyard episode. And we've got a few things we can talk about today. Some questions from you viewers. One particular viewer whose name eludes me at the moment, a new subscriber. So thank you very much. Wanted to have some information on the bowsprit, the Code Zero setup, so the furler, the way the bowsprit works. Yeah, basically how I run the furling lines, all that sort of thing, so I can show you that. Another viewer from the UK, I think it's Spud from memory. I think his name was Spud, or his YouTube name, was really interested in my little fold-up table, which is sort of pretty cool actually. That table came with the boat. In fact, I think when these dancers were made, that was part of the kit that came with the boat, the little fold-up table. So that's as old as the boat, so that's nearly half a century old. So it actually needs a bit of glue on it, or maybe we'll do that today. So there's that. I've got to take a jam cleat off and put a rope clutch on and replace a halyard. And the reason why I'm replacing the halyard is because I've been dragging the halyard through a jam cleat around the winch to get tension on the code sail, and basically I'm just stripping the rope, stripping the line, so I've got to replace that and put a proper rope clutch on there, so that'll be fun. And I've got to change a halyard because, yeah, the halyard's shot. If you watched the last video, you would have seen the halyard just about ready to break. So yeah, that's what is in store in today's episode of Sailing Head Injuries, and we'll get right on with that after I've finished relaxing for a bit and reading my Afloat magazine, a priceless publication. That's a nice spinnaker. I've got to fit this thing, which is one of these clutch type setups. Spin lock clutch, one of the smallest ones you can find. And the problem is that the halyard for the Code Zero would come from that block there, because basically you can imagine if the mast was up, that would be going up into the mast. Comes back here, I would run it through this cleat, bring it back to the winch over here at that angle, and scull drag the thing through the cleat, which would then wear away the line to the point where it wants to break. So what I've got to try and do is get this line further at a better angle to the winch, and I'm thinking about actually putting another one of these things here so that my line comes through here like so, and then runs down here, and probably putting that there, which then gives me a better angle across to the winch. That's the plan. So take that cleat off, because I don't use that anymore, put this on there, put another little saddle, one of these saddle-y things here, over here, so that the line will come through that, around that, back down there and into that. I don't know if that made any sense. It made sense to me. I guess once it's done, you'll go, oh yeah, that makes sense, Murray. But I've got no idea what you're talking about at the moment. I think I've got it right. So yeah, got to go and find all the screws and things that I'm going to need to do that with. That's always fun, because I've got this scratch box full of a million different size nuts and bolts and things, and being a cheapskate, instead of going and buying new ones, I'll just spend 3 hours looking for ones that'll sort of do the job. But anyway, get that done, and then we'll move on. So yeah, let's get on with that job. Right, well, we just need to get this little cleat off here. I've had this this cleat on here because I was going to set up a, I don't know what they call them, but in a way it's a downhaul, but when you want to drop your headsail, when you've got a Hanks-on headsail, you run a line to the top of the sail, and then when you pull it, it pulls the sail down the forestay. But it's just one of them ideas I had that I probably didn't really need to do. Anyway, that's that cleat off there. I just use my silicone removing tool, my thumb. Okay, so line comes from bottom of mast through first block to the second block, which I reckon goes about Jesus, this is a tricky bit. Where do you put it? About there. Come back there, that's safer. And then that runs, we go over there. We go there? No, we go there. Where do we go? Where do you go, Murray? Go there. Just put the bloody thing there, Murray. Is that going to work? That's going to work. Just like that. Tucked in under there. All right, just get my trusty marker pen. Well, put that there. And that there. And with a bit of luck, when I drill the holes, there'll be nothing underneath that I shouldn't have drilled into. Probably a good idea if I go and check that first, Murray. And then that will go there. A bit of an angle on it, down to the winch. I can probably even, yes, I can use one of them holes. Right, get my trusty pen. Okay. Just check to make sure that there's nothing in there I need to worry about drilling into, like a radio, which there is. There's a radio right underneath that, so you need to be careful I don't drill a hole into the radio. Now I think I can start drilling holes. Right, so what size screw we got? A bolt, thread. It's a 4.85. If only I had a 5mm drill bit. Ah, here's one. Perfect. A little tip that I learnt from a good friend of mine, Rob the dentist, when bedding down deck fittings is don't tighten them up straight away. So put your little bit of sealant into the holes, just tweak up the nuts and then let it cure off and then tighten it down, so you basically then make a nice gasket sort of thing, or a nice seal. If you just do it up when it's wet, it just turns around the thread and you run the risk of it just leaking anyway. So yeah, good little tip. Don't do it up straight away, just tweak it up a little bit, and then, well, just do it up until it's sort of almost tight, and then let it cure off and then tighten it later, even if it's the next day. Right, so we'll do this one. I think I can do this one by myself. Otherwise, I might have to get my beautiful wife Julie to come and, like, you know, hold the screwdriver for me or something. But we'll see how we go. All right, well, they're all now just sort of nipped up, so they can be tightened up later on again. I'll go a little bit more with them. So yeah, just let that sort of cure off and then just tighten them down completely, and it sort of just squashes out the sealant and makes like a nice seal. Basically, does its job properly. There we go, that's in there. Now I will probably need the assistance of my most beautiful wife and assistant,
Julie to help me do the next one, because I'm going to have to be in there and she's probably going to have to be up there holding the screwdriver. Okay, so I've now got the assistance of my beautiful wife Julie. She can use the screwdriver at the top of the boat. I can use the spanner on the bottom of the boat. Say hello, Julie. Right, well, once again, we're just going to tighten these up till they're almost tight. And then probably tomorrow I'll just get in and just tweak them up. I don't need much. It's just like a tiny little tweak once you've got them almost tight, and then it just squashes it down. But a big thank you to Julie, who's doing a fabulous job up there, looking absolutely stunning and holding the screwdriver for me. Thank you, Julie. All right, so I think I've touched on this on a little short video once before, but when you've got to change a halyard, you're using the old halyard to pull the new one through. There's a few different ways that you can join the things, because you can't tie them in a knot because they won't go through the pulleys at the top of the mast or come out the block at the bottom of the mast. I've seen guys sew, like get a needle and thread and actually sew them together like so. I just grab myself a little bit of wire. That's just a bit of, it's often a bit of stainless rigging wire. And what I'm going to attempt to do is, you can see I put that through the old halyard. I've gone up a gauge in halyard too, by the way. I'm now going to attempt to put that wire through the larger diameter like so. So I'll end up with them sort of hooked together and then just run a bit of tape around it. So that's what I'm going to try and do in theory. I don't know if it's going to happen too well in practice, but anyway, we'll give it a go. So with a little bit of stuffing around, I've managed to get the wire through both the thicker and the thinner line. It's just a matter of pulling it through now. Just a matter of pulling it through now. It's just a matter of pulling it through now. Anyway, you get the idea. Get the wire through there, and sort of wire it together, and then just wrap a bit of tape around it. And I'll show you the finished product once I get there, because yes, it is a bit of stuffing around. Nothing ever goes to plan when you've got the camera rolling, does it? Right, so I've got the bit of wire now, as you can see there, going through both the lines, and I can just sort of wrap some tape around that. I'm going to use a cloth tape or a gaffer tape, because all good musicians know that if you can't fix it with gaffer tape, you just can't fix it. Okay, so there it is. It's joined, it's taped, I'm putting enough pressure on it to sort of simulate what I'm going to put it through as it goes through the mast. It'll bend around corners, around pulleys, and hopefully it works. Right, let's see how we go. The first hurdle will be getting it down the hole at the top of the mast. And here we go. What's the worst thing that could happen? It'll just come off halfway down the mast. And down it goes. So that's that part. Now it's just a matter of pulling it out. Look, there's a broken bit. Keep going until it comes to a bit of a stop, and that'll be at the bottom of the mast. It'll be a lot easier if it breaks at the bottom of the mast, because you can just drop the bloody end of the mast off and reach in and grab it. Oh, look at that, and it's done. And there it is. That's how I change halyards. Too bloody easy. Okay, so we've now got that halyard changed. We've run the new blocks and the new rope clutch. So that's the major work done. So I'm just going to clean up a little bit, and then we'll talk about some bowsprits and Code Zero setups. If I can just cut this little bit of crappy line off there. It's not going to work. Get my Bunnings safety knife. Right, viewers, so on to the table for Spud from the UK. I'm sure he's from the UK. How you going, mate? So he asked me about this table, and I thought, it's a strange thing to do a video about, but now I'm looking at it, it's a pretty old table. And like I said, this came with the boat when I bought it, and I remember, because my father owned one of these Dancing Irons when I was a kid, and I remember it had the same table. So it came with the boat when you bought the boat. Well, it did in Australia anyway. I don't know about New Zealand. But anyway, it folds up like so. It's got a little lock there and a lock there, and there's your table. There it is. So, you know, beautifully crafted little thing. Yeah. It's almost the sort of thing you'd make when you were doing woodwork at high school, isn't it? But yeah, that's it. Simple little thing, folds up, stows away nice and easy. It's light, and it's, you know, showing some signs of wear, but that's almost half a century old. So's the boat. Right, the bowsprit. So I made this with the assistance of, well, actually a friend of mine made it with the assistance of me. Rob the dentist, who is a fitter and machinist, and also, as you know, in the past built his own Adams 40 cruising race yacht, done Hobarts in it and won them. And he's an absolute genius and a master craftsman. So he actually designed and built this bracket for me, and it was done with bits of cardboard and templates and getting angles right and things like that. So I suppose I'm going to have to start off with, there are, I think Selden make a bowsprit that you can buy that has a bracket on it of some sort that you can just bolt to a boat. I'm not sure exactly, you know, I did look at them and they're bloody expensive. And for whatever reason, I can't remember, it wasn't really going to work here. But you can buy bowsprits that retract back inside the boat on top of the deck, off the shelf type things. Maybe that's one for you. Or if you're going to manufacture something, well, then it depends on the boat and it depends on your design for it. This might give you some ideas, but basically it's 316 stainless. I can't remember exactly what that product is in there, but it's a bush or a bearing, so to speak. It's like a, oh God, it's a polymer. I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's certainly not Teflon, something like that, nylon probably. And then that's designed, the angle of that is designed to keep that bowsprit when it's out there to be basically in the centre of the boat. What I've done is just put on the back a spinnaker clip, or like a clip that you have on the end of a spinnaker pole, and I can unclip that from its mounting point back here, slide it forward onto its working mounting point right there. So what stops the bowsprit from going up in the air is there is a bobstay that runs from round here, which has just got like a webbed loop, what they call them, a rope shackle, which I've got made up for me, and some dyneema that runs down to basically where the trailer, you know, winch hooks onto. So that's my bobstay. That's just lashed on. You don't have to tighten the crap out of it. You just got to have it tight enough so that when it does lift, it stops it from lifting any further. So it's not like you got to put a million trucky hitches in it or anything like that. You just lash it down in the position it's in, and then when you put tension on the code sail, which you need to do for a code sail, a lot of tension, it just stops it. It gets to a point where it doesn't go any further. Now the other problem is that the thing wants to go side to side and bend, so you know, and break. So I've got two stays that run from the front here back to these points here, which I've just put turnbuckles on, and they just tighten them up so that, you know, I bow the bowsprit one way and then I tighten up the opposite side and I bring it back to centre, and you can almost tune it to a low E, like you would on a guitar. It gets pretty tight, and if you have a look at an 18-foot skiff, you'll see they've got exactly the same thing, except it's massive. Bowsprits out the front of the boat 3 miles, and their stays come back to their wings that they stand on. But yeah, that's it. So a bobstay running down to there, and then 2 stays coming from the front back down to the side of the boat to stop the sideways motion. Now, I believe that the Selden one that's on the market, you don't need any of that. I don't know if you need a bobstay or not. You certainly don't need things to stop it from going side to side. It's a carbon fibre thing. It doesn't stick out as much as this does. I think it only comes out to about there or whatever. Research it. If it's right for you, great, spend the money. If not, maybe you can make something like this. But you will need stays to stop it from going and having a catastrophe. Okay, so as far as the actual code sail goes, this is a code 55. And the guys at Rolly Tasker put this one together for me. This would have been made in their loft in Phuket, which if you're ever in Thailand, in Phuket, go and have a look at that. Biggest loft in the Southern Hemisphere or something, I believe. Now, we can find the furler, which is in here somewhere. That's your top swivel, okay? Top swivel. And in here somewhere, I'm going to have to pull the whole thing out, aren't I? I didn't want to pull the whole thing out, but I'm going to have to. Okay, what a mess. Here it is the furler. Now that is a furler. It's a Ronston. I can't remember what the part number is. It's not written on it. But it's the smallest one they make for off-the-beach cats and dinghies. And it works brilliantly for this, right? But you need to do your figures. You need to work out what your sail area is, and you look at the all the recommendations on their websites and things like that. But this one turns out to be perfect, and it just works really, really well. So I've got that. That's a huge snap fitting. I don't know why I've got that big thing on there. I've got to make a smaller one. But I put a snap fitting on there because I can just reach out over the top and go bang, snap it on, right? So I can show you what I do there. I'll put that up there. Hopefully all this is going to work. All right, so we'll snap that on there. All right. Then these are your furling lines. So what do we do with those, I hear you say? Well, I didn't hear you say that, but I'm just pretending I did. Well, imagine that's all up in the air and nice. These run back down through the side of the boat. Okay, so then they come to this fitting here, which when you push it in, you can turn it, right? And the way that works, and we just put the camera down there, thank you very much, is you push that in and one rope goes in there and the other one goes up in there. And that's not exactly how it goes because I'm doing it from outside the boat. But basically, that then runs up to two little cleats that I have just up there on the side of the boat. So uncleat it, pull the rope, furl up the sail. When you want to go home and pack it all up, you just pop it out of there. So that's, I don't know what they even call those things. Can't remember what brand it is. But look, you'll find them. And look, if you really need the information on exactly what part number it is, send me a message and I will look into it further for you. But yeah, that's it. So control line for the furler runs from furler up through here, through that guide rail, but you could almost call it I don't know what you would call it. Tell me what you would call it. Send me a message and say, Murray, you're an idiot. It's called this. And then that runs up to two little jam cleats up there. So that's sort of how that code sail set up there is. So just some things that I've learnt with the code sail is that you've got to get this really tight. Okay, so much so, because if it's not tight, you get a big sort of sag in it and you lose sail shape. But if it is tight, and I mean tight, to the point where I've broken mastheads and things like that, getting it too tight. Yeah, if it's nice and tight, you can get in light breezes, you can pretty much go almost point like you would under a head saw. You can go to windward with these things brilliantly. Now, the reason why it's a code 55, a code 0 has also got another name called the flapper. There's a great big section of it down the leach of the sail that when it's going to windward, or sort of pointing up a little bit more, just flaps around and does nothing. The reason why that is there is because of the cut has to be a certain cut, I think from memory, so it's actually a spinnaker under some racing rules. I don't race, so I don't need to worry about rules. I don't need a bit of a sail that just flaps and does nothing. So this code 55 is a slightly different cut. It's a bit more like a Genoa, I suppose. Very lightweight material. And also the size of it was, because I do a lot of solo sailing, we didn't want to go with some massive, great big thing that I could get completely out of control with and end up upside down or something like that in a screaming heap. So this, and if you've seen the videos, you've seen the size of the sail, it works brilliantly. It is so, I can use this thing in so many situations. I've run square with it and poled it out. I can go to windward with it in light breezes, broad reaches and shy reaches. It's brilliant. It's just like putting the accelerator down in this boat, and it needs all the help it can get. But yeah, but it's got to be tight so that you get the sail shape and so that it furls properly. This is not a top-down furler like you'll see on the big boats. It's just a standard furler. This starts rolling from the bottom up. If it's not tight, it'll get about halfway up and then it just gets really, saggy and doesn't furl properly. As it is, in fact, you can see here, it's a nice tight furl until it gets to that head plate where it doesn't really want to roll it up anymore. But I can live with that. It works brilliantly, but yes, has to be tight. Now on that, when this is I think it's a 3/4 rig they call it, where the shrouds don't go all the way to the top of the mast. About, you know, a metre of 1200 of mast just sticks up in the air with nothing supporting it really. So when I crank the halyard through the winch up for this, I'm actually bowing the top of the mast forward. So I've then had to put a backstay on it and a crane on the head to be able to clear the back of the main. But I put a backstay on it to just pull back out that top 1200 millimetres of mast that wants to bow forward under the pressure of the code sail. So I crank this thing up and get it nice and tight. I look up the mast and go, yep, the mast is just starting to bow forward a bit. Then I just pull on the backstay and I bring it all back. And I reckon if I were to hit this thing on the front here with a sledgehammer or a ball peen hammer, it'd probably explode because everything's so tight. But it has to be, and if you do it properly, it can be. So backstay to support that. Depends on your rig. Once again, I don't know what rig you're going to have on your boat. You may not need. You may already have a backstay. You may not need a backstay. Well, you're probably going to need a backstay, I think. So yeah, there you go. So that's that. Now I did try to set up a asymmetric spinnaker with a furler like this, where I ran a torsion line up. And my theory was I could get the spinnaker to wrap around the torsion line. It will work one day, but I've got to just come up with a few different ways of getting the bottom of the sail to start to furl later than the top of the sail. So it's actually working as a top-down furler. I'm sort of almost there. It's just when I get the chance to experiment with it, I do. There was a viewer that sent me a message and gave me a great tip on how to get the bottom of the sail to not furl until the top of the sail's, you know, almost halfway down. I've just got to do some manufacturing of a furler or make an attachment for this one, but that's a future video. And look, really, I don't, because this is so universal and versatile, I'd probably only ever use the asymmetric if I was on a really big, close to square run, like a long distance one, like out in the ocean. And I don't get out in the ocean very often. I'm in lakes. Like quite often by the time I put the spinnaker up, it's time to take it down. But maybe up on Newcombe or down the Gibson Lakes, Mile Lakes, there's some, you can get some good big long legs, big long runs. I'd probably just go back to using a spinnaker sock. And I wouldn't be trying to put the spinnaker up if I was out there by myself in a blow. I'd probably just go with this. And if I was in a blow, I probably wouldn't even need this. I'd just use a jib. But yeah, I suppose the points are it's got to be tight. The luff of the sail has got to be tight. And to do that, you've got to have something to stop this from lifting up in the air, and you've got to have something to stop your mast from bowing forward, which is a backstay. But everything else is, once again, is going to come down to your boat, what's going to fit, what's going to work. But that's it. That's the code sail setup. I hope for the viewer that asked that's answered some questions for you, because you said you were looking at putting a code sail on your boat next season. Please, if there's anything else you need to know, send me an email or comment on the YouTube channel or on the Facebook page, Sailing Head Injuries Facebook page, which is now a professional Sailing Head Injuries Facebook page, not just a page linked to my name. So yeah, there we go. That's that. Right, well, now that all of that's all over and done with, it's time for a beer and some chips. So, yeah, thanks for joining me on this episode of Sailing Head Injuries. Cheers. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I'm like 8 subscribers away from having 500 subscribers, and that's pretty cool. So thank you to all 500 of you. But yes, I hope you enjoyed that. If you've got any questions, please send me a message. And if there's anything you want me to do a video on in particular, please send me a message and I'll do a video on that for you. Have a great day. Salt and vinegar.